Hi, Lindsay. Can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. So, Lindsay, how are you?
You know what? I am doing really well. But the real question is, how are you?
Well, I'm dry and you're okay. But, not many persons in our country are in that position. And that's why we're having this talk. So, good afternoon, friends who have joined in. I am Robert Scott, author of the soon to be released book, Developing Gravitas and Boosting Your Executive Presence. And here with me today, I have a good friend who is a fellow TEDx speaker and an editor's pick no less. And let me formally introduce you. So, Lindsay is someone who has been an HR professional for quite a bit of time. She has the qualifications SPHR, SHRM, SCP. And what these mean is that she's certified and she's a senior human resource professional from the Society of Human Resources Management and a senior certified professional. So that means she knows a lot about HR. But even more than that, Lindsay, she is a senior HR strategist, a TEDx speaker, a best-selling author, and she's leading the HR revolution. And that is a movement committed to transforming human resources into human relations. Get the distinction, guys?
Right?
Transforming human resources into human relations. And with that, with more than 25 years of experience partnering with organizations across industries, Lindsay helps leaders build workplaces rooted in empathy, accountability, and authentic human connection. She's the founder of Kinder HR, a people first consultancy equipping organizations to replace outdated leadership behaviors with her proven kind of trademark, which she has trademarked.
Working on. Working on. I might say trademarks. I'm still in the process of that.
Still in the process, but where kindness isn't soft, but it's strategy. And Lindsay's work has been recognized nationally for defining the future of work, empowering leaders at every level to step into impactful, human centered leadership. Let us welcome her.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I am so privileged, Robert, to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. I have absolutely, like so many others, been praying and thinking about all of you in Jamaica and the other countries that were impacted. And so I'm glad. I'm so happy that you brought me here to help share some of my expertise on how we go forward.
Lindsay, I couldn't think of anyone better to start the series with because as we exit the hurricane and we try to rebuild, one of the first things people start to think about is work. How will my company, how will my profession be affected? Will I get an income on the 25th of the month? So the HR role has a critical role to play, along with those defining the strategic moves that the company has to make next. But then we have to put people first in everything. And I'm so happy to have you here. So Lindsay, let me start the interrogation. Oops, sorry, I mean the questioning. And
I'm ready.
I want to start up by saying that weather systems and climate change does make your job harder, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It makes everyone's life harder. From an HR perspective, we have been trained to handle, difficult situations, crises in the office, personal interactions that go awry. But it's always quadrupled times 10 when there's a true crisis happening. Because the regular rules, well, you can kind of apply them, aren't the same, right? The situation is completely different, and you never know quite what that's going to look like, right? And to be honest, it's not going to be the same for everybody, which is why it's so important for HR to be leading the way in taking care of the company, but more importantly, the humans in there. Because it doesn't matter what your company is doing. If your humans aren't taken care of, your company's not going to do anything or go anywhere. You
And
need
you're
to
not
be
far
thinking of
removed
people.
from this because you're in Utah, correct?
I'm what?
You're in Utah, is it?
I am in Utah.
Right.
Yes.
So do you get tornadoes? What sort of thing you have? We get hurricanes here. What do you get?
You know, we get snow. I would say with climate change is changing everything. We have been known to have a tornado here or there, some earthquakes. In fact, several years ago, we had an earthquake that hit not right where our factory was, but very close, and they felt the earthquake and saw the floor go up and down.
Wow.
And so that is sort of dealing with that aftermath is where, well, it's where I had real life experience. So the rains, we have gotten some serious rains though from the hurricane season, which is unusual. We haven't had that before, but yeah, those are our biggest things.
So I want to
most likely, what? Sorry.
I want to let our audience know who may be here in Jamaica that you're not speaking from an academic point of view. You've lived it, you've experienced it. You understand what we're talking about.
That's right. I have.
Absolutely.
And for clarity, I have not experienced this level of disaster. I know what you guys are going through is incredible, but I believe that the same principles that you can learn will apply. So I'm hoping that the things that I've learned and the things that I know will be of service, even though I know you guys are going through so much. I don't want to take any sort of anything away from that.
I got it. So, as you're aware, easily 2/3 of the country was devastated to varying degrees, and many persons face catastrophic destruction to their lives. Now, my question to you, Lindsay, is that if you are the HR executive in a company here in Jamaica that had staff affected, or even the company itself been affected, what would you be doing in the first 2 weeks after the hurricane?
You know what? That is a great question. And the most important thing you need to be doing is taking care of your people. You need, and I like to there's 3 C's, and I'm going to, you have to have clear communication. Make sure you know what is happening and where your people are. You have to have caring support. Paid emergency leave if you can do that. And connected action. You have to make sure that you know where people are. You need to find them and see what they need. And that's not something we can do necessarily, but know that you're in a situation to have a small group that you can focus on. People that you specifically know, you have ways to get in touch with them. That's your first responsibility. Check on them, see what they need, because it's going to be different. And the company there'll be operations, there'll be people figuring out how to get the machines restarted and those kinds of things. But human resources responsibility is to check on our employees to make sure that they don't need anything. Clear communication on what you can offer. What are the rules going to be? What do you have? Are you able to reopen? When might you be able to reopen? The key here is care and communication. And that's where you need to focus for the first 2 weeks. As things get settled, that's when you start problem solving how to negotiate reopening. Maybe that's only on a part-time basis. How do you negotiate? What kind of help and can you provide? Vacation, just unlimited time off with partial pay. There's so many options. But start thinking about what your people need and be open to more than one option, because everybody doesn't need the same thing, but everybody's going to need something.
I got that. And it leads to my next question, that some of the staff, and I know companies that they still can't find their staff right now, and some of their homes are actually being devastated. You may wish to help them and others, but what if your company is small and does not have much resources? What do you do? Because it's painful, I would imagine, to see people needing help. You want to help, but you just financially can't help.
You know what? That is such a great question. And the answer is simple. Help comes from humanity. If you have the resources to provide money or time off with pay, do it. But if you don't, that's okay. I'm going to be honest, I'm not sure how to help find people. But as you do, ask them as employees, what do they need? Do they need help finding temporary housing? Is their stuff destroyed? Can you help run a food bank? Can you find community resources that you can share with your employees? Because it doesn't have to be money. It has to be care. It has to be real connection. It has to be, what just happened is so not in the realm of what we were hoping. So this isn't about work anymore. This is about us. How can we help?
I agree, because it's about communication and community. Because if a small company doesn't have the resources, then you can lean on others. You may be in a trade association, you may be in the manufacturers association, you may be in some other association. Then you lean on other members who may be able to provide tents, may be able to provide tarpaulins, may be able to find foodstuffs. So if you can't go it alone, don't give up. Just reach out to others. Because what we have is truly not only a national but an international movement, because people are really pooling their resources and people are coming into the country to help. So you don't have to do it alone.
You don't have to do it alone. And don't be afraid to ask for help. I think that's a really big thing that we sometimes, especially as leaders, we're like, oh, we need to be the ones in charge. We need to know what we're doing. But it's okay to ask for help, because it's happening to all of us. So to your point, community is the key. What can you do? What can you offer? Who do you know? You know, our group, the cohort that you and I are a part of, you know, we're sending things that we can. You know, you know people in the United States, you know people in other countries. Ask them, tell them what you need. Would you rather we send water, food? Do you need pajamas? Like, what really can we help you? And there's always going to be a level. And sometimes if it's just praying, do it.
Yeah, you touched on an interesting point there when you mentioned pajamas. My wife, she actually adopted a primary school that one of our in-laws works in, and she's doing the best that she can. I'm looking at some stuff that's going on right now. And her thing is that not only the food items that are critical, but that's some of the little things: soap, toothbrushes, yeah? Toothpaste,
right?
deodorants, things that make you feel like a human again. Because in all this, when you've lost everything, how do you even think of yourself as a human being? So you need something to restore your concept of self, to say, I can go on for another day. And if you're not smelling good, you can't take a shower, you don't even have a rag, you don't have a slippers to put on. I can't imagine how you feel.
Thank you for sharing that, because it's so powerful to recognize, you know, there are big things that need to happen, but helping people remember that they are human and giving them the little things. How about a little chapstick? You know what I mean? There are so many little things, and they're so important, and sometimes they get missed. So I love that. And that is absolutely a wonderful way. If you don't have a lot of financial abilities, you know, jump on Amazon and send a package of socks. That's going to cost you $5 or whatever. And yeah, so there's the chance to help at whatever degree you can.
For sure, for sure. And now I think that segues very nicely into my next question, which I call is a big concern in part 2. And the question is, how can we address the mental health issues emanating from their personal experience and the trauma observed with their families, neighbors, and friends? It's going to be a biggie.
Healing doesn't happen fast. I think that's one of the most important things that we need to remember, is people heal at their own rate, and it doesn't happen quickly, and it doesn't happen linearly. Is that even a word? So the best thing we can do as HR is to have services available. A lot of companies in the US offer what's an EAP, which is Employee Assistance Program, just free counseling. But you're going to need to do more than that. Have things available. Find places where people can go. Hold town halls as you get together, as you're coming back into the office. Leave an open space to share and flexibility. Because I may be fine today, and tomorrow I may not be. So have the humanity and the opportunity to give people the space to heal in their way. And of course, running a business, there are certain policies and procedures that are going to need to happen again to get up and be the successful organization you were before. But the first thing that you need to get up and running are your people. You need to make sure that they are okay. And that's going to be a long-term process. You think it's going to be hard to rebuild your computer system? It's going to be a lot longer and harder to rebuild your humans and their experiences, because that trauma is going to be built in, and it's going to be ongoing. You're going to have continued problems. People are going to learn that their family members or people that they love or places that they loved didn't make it, are destroyed later. It's not like one of the things that I learned, I did some research on Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans, and some of the biggest issues they had were after the hurricane. So it's going to continue. This is really depressing, so sorry guys, but it's going to continue. But as long as we keep in mind that we're in this together, that healing looks different for each of us, and as an organizational structure, we can provide those resources, magazine articles, cute little snips, anything that will help give people hope and strength. I don't know, do a group morning affirmation. There are so many things that you can do, but you need to think about it as, what are we doing for each other? And recognize that each day is going to be different. And as leaders, you get to have hard days too. You cannot be the person who pretends that they're not impacted, that their emotions, their feelings, their mental health is fine. Because it won't be every day, even if it is today.
I agree. And I think even those of us who are not trained in that area, there's one thing we can do, and that's simply speak to others, or even more importantly, just listen. Just go beside someone, stand for a while. Hi, how are you doing? How are you feeling today? And just listen, coming from nowhere, coming from nothing. And
exactly.
Just listen.
No one needs a strict diagnosis right now. Everyone's suffering from PTSD. And does it count as post-traumatic if you guys are still kind of in the middle of it? I don't know, but it's like, I am no shade, no tea. I am not undermining the mental health professionals, because they are incredible. But what you said is exactly right. Right now, people don't necessarily need therapy. They need to have their voice heard. They need to be seen. They need to feel like someone is listening and the ability to share that and feel comfort, everyone can do that.
If I were to put a magnifying glass on something, I want to share that after COVID, we've had a round of violence in schools. And my feeling, which has actually been supported by a couple of psychologists that I've spoken to, is that those 3 years cooped up at home with issues with the family and so forth, that is what is playing out in the schools when the schools became open after COVID. And when I look at the parallel here, I'm saying that the sort of trauma that our children are going to be going through, the outlook thereafter, we have to put something in place. And again, this is when we have to talk to the young ones at home, hear how they feel, see how they're interpreting things, clarify and perhaps correct their interpretation, and really put a lot of attention on them, even when you're feeling badly yourself. I think that's really going to be very, very important.
Yes, thank you for saying that. I think that is really, again, where that beginning is recognizing with the children, they don't have the capacity to really understand what's happening. And so when we're unsure, we lash out. So, violence in schools is unfortunately becoming its own pandemic across the world. Certainly ugly here in the U.S. But that's because we're not addressing. We need to speak to our children in the next generation in the language that they understand. They're not going to get all of it, but when they feel heard, when they feel seen, when they know that you give them a safe space to lash out, go out and splash or throw something. It's okay to be angry and to get that out, especially when you're a kid. You don't have the same coping strategies. Just give them a safe space. Give them the permission to have big feelings and not know how to deal with them, and then walk them through it. And I don't know, you may not know, but honesty and transparency, I believe, is the key. Even when you're afraid to tell your kids stuff, like they're too young to understand, they're living it. So whether they're too young to understand or not, they're in the middle. So you got to talk to them about what's going on and listen. How are you feeling about this? What does this look like to you? Because you know what, Mommy's scared.
Lindsay, what you're saying is profound, because as Caribbean parents, we raise our children to be quiet. Why are you behaving like that? Settle down, behave. And you're saying give them permission a period of time to lash out and just get it off your chest.
Right.
That's a normal way we school typically. We train them typically. So I think that's an important thing for us to really think through, because they can't cope, as you said, the way we as adults can cope. And sometimes we don't do it very well either.
No, we don't.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you so much. So another question, which is perhaps my penultimate question, is they say hindsight is 2020 vision. Yeah. Now, how should companies prepare for the next hurricane? It's not if we're going to have another one, it's going to when. It's going to be when. And, we hope certainly that of the same intensity. But how do we prepare going forward, having had this experience? What do we do differently, particularly guided by the HR department?
So that is a great question. And the answer is to keep track of what you're doing now and then document it. For many, many years, in many different organizations, we worked on emergency preparedness plans. What happens if this happens? Step by step, what do you do? I am not opposed to that. But what I can tell you is most of the time those never get done. They never get shared because, but what about this? But what about this? It doesn't do any good if you don't have at least an outline. And here's your opportunity to know, what did you do? How did you handle it? What did not work? and have that as an outline. Keep that, because you're right. It's not if, it's when. I mean, in speaking of Utah, we're sitting on a giant fault line. When the big earthquake hits us, the whole half the mountain is coming down on top of where I live. And so we need to be prepared, and we can learn from you by helping document. You know, I wrote a whole chapter about documentation in my book, and often it's seen as this negative thing. Like, I'm writing this down to fire you, or I'm just writing this down to prove that you were mean to me. That's not what it is. It's about remembering and recognizing what worked, what didn't, what happened, and how, as we move forward, we can integrate those things into our workplace. But you got to write it down, because you may not be here the next time it happens. So great, make a giant manual. Try to take each piece and drill down as far as you can. But don't wait to share that. Start with the outline. Each manager is responsible for their leaders. Each leader is responsible to report their department. Just these little things that we know. Now we know someone's being taken care of. It's the same thing with drills. You know, we have fire drills and earthquake drills. Have some drills if they're at work, so they know how to behave. Our employees had to wait for it was a manufacturing facility, and they were standing next to tons of machinery and watching it go up and down. It scared the crap out of them. But they knew, because we practiced, that they had to wait until it stopped and then head out the door and be cautious of, stuff like that. So reminding people, having drills, basic things to remember that.
Document and share.
Document and
share. Not that, I know.
Document and share, and get other people's perspectives. Your employees are doing something that the executive team is doing differently. So make sure that you don't come in with your idea of what it should look like.
That's right.
Check with each person. What did you do? How did this work for you?
I've always said that as leadership, we have the ideas, but the team on the ground has the solutions.
I love how you said that. Say that again.
Let me try and remember. It's that as leaders, we have the ideas, but the teams on the ground, they have the solutions.
I love that.
But Lindsay, you let slip out about your book. Tell them about that amazing book that you have. Tell us about that book, because I'm sure reading it will help us as we go forward and we try to restore normalcy of some sorts.
My book is called Don't Be a Dick: HR Advice for a Kinder, Healthier, and More Successful Workplace. And truly, it's about the revolution that I believe we need in HR. And that is recognizing that human resources is inaccurate. Human relations is what we need. And there are 3 reasons specifically for that. 1, when HR is human relations, it stops becoming a department and starts becoming everyone's responsibility and a guiding value for your organization. It also allows the fact for your leaders to stand up and lead. And what we know, and what Cory Booker likes to say, leadership is not a title or a position. It's action and example. You have leaders within your organization that you need to give the power to, so that they can share the answers, like you said. And third, when it's a guiding principle, when people have a voice, that creates true change in your organization. And that is what my book is about, in a tongue-in-cheek, humorous. Lindsay thinks she's funny. I'm going to take that back. Lindsay knows she's funny, and it's written in my voice. So as you get to know me, you'll hear me in my book. But it's HR advice for everybody. People will say, "Oh my gosh, your book's called Don't Be a Dick." I know someone who needs that book. And I like to respond, oh, so you're buying two.
Ooh. Them's fighting words, Lindsay.
Because
Lindsay, how can they find you, though?
So I am on Facebook. It's just Lindsay Simons Mattes. I Instagram, TikTok, HR Mama 6 is my TikTok. I should have these things memorized. Easiest way to find me is my website, which is kinder-hr.com. That's KINDER-HR.com. And that's my company website. It has all my contact information, a way to get in touch with me. And I want you to know that I am happy to be here to support. That's one thing that I know I can provide. So please feel free to reach out. And I'll give you advice if I can, or words of comfort, but know that this human relations revolutionary here in the US is rooting for you and will help wherever I can.
That's fantastic, Lindsay. Now, Lindsay, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you this afternoon. Are there any thoughts you'd like to leave with our audience?
We can all be, in fact, we all must be part of the solution. So don't wait for a department or wait for someone else to jump in and start being kind. Do it yourself, because we all can. And you know what? If you can't be kind, at least don't be a dick.
Well said, well said. Lindsay, I really want to thank you for sharing with us, and that empathy that you shared, those tools that we all can use, whether we're HR professionals or not. We can actually do that to make the world far more kinder in this really perilous time that we're going through. But thank you ever so much. And for those who are online, we thank you for tuning in and tuning again very soon. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Robert.
Thank you. Bye.